Hello, we're reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Last time, of course, Ron received a howler from his mother because of the whole flying car business. Harry bumped into Gilderoy Lockhart again, and the gang, in other words, Ron, Harry and Hermione, had herbology with Professor Sprout. They're now going on to Miss McGonagall's class, Transformation, I think it is. Let's pick it up there. Professor McGonagall's classes were always hard work, but today was especially difficult. Everything Harry had learned last year seemed to have leaked out of his head during the summer. He was supposed to be turning a beetle into a button, but all he managed to do was give his beetle a lot of exercise as it scuttled over the desk top, avoiding his wand. Ron was having far worse problems. He'd patched up his wand with some borrowed speller tape. But it seemed to be damaged beyond repair. It kept crackling and sparking at odd moments, and every time Ron tried to transfigure his beetle, it engulfed him in thick grey smoke which smelled of rotten eggs. Unable to see what he was doing, Ron accidentally squashed his beetle with his elbow and had to ask for a new one. Professor McGonagall wasn't pleased. Harry was relieved to hear the lunch bell. His brain felt like a wrung sponge. Everyone filed out of the classroom except him and Ron, who was whacking his wand furiously on the desk. Stupid, useless thing. Why don't you write home for another one, Harry suggested, as the wand let off a volley of bangs like a firecracker. Oh yeah, and get another howler back, said Ron, stuffing the now hissing wand into his bag. It's your own fault your wand got snapped. They went down to lunch, where Ron's mood was not improved by Hermione showing them the handful of perfect coat buttons she had produced in Transfiguration. What have we got this afternoon, said Harry, hastily changing the subject. Defence against the dark arts, said Hermione at once. Why? Demanded Ron, seizing her timetable. Have you outlined all Lockhart's lessons in little hearts? Hermione snatched the timetable back, flushing furiously. They finished lunch and went outside into the overcast courtyard. Hermione sat down on a stone step and buried her nose in Voyages with Vampires again. Harry and Ron stood talking about Quidditch for several minutes before Harry became aware that he was being closely watched. Looking up, he saw the very small, mousy-haired boy he'd seen trying on the sorting hat last night, staring at Harry as though transfixed. He was clutching what looked like an ordinary Muggle camera, and the moment Harry looked at him, he went bright red. All right, Harry, I'm Colin Creevey, he said breathlessly, taking a tentative step forward. I'm in Gryffindor too. Do you think, would it be all right if could I have your picture? He said, raising the camera hopefully. A picture? Harry repeated blankly. So I can prove I've met you, said Colin Creevey eagerly, edging further forwards. I know all about you. Everyone's told me about how you survived when you-know-who tried to kill you and how he disappeared and everything, and how you've still got a lightning scar on your forehead. His eyes raked Harry's hairline. And a boy at my dormitory said if I develop the film in the right position, the pictures will move. Colin drew a great shuddering breath of excitement and said, It's brilliant here, isn't it? I never knew all the odd stuff I could do with magic till I got the letter from Hogwarts. My dad's a milkman. He couldn't believe it either, so I'm taking loads of pictures to send home to him. It'd be really good if I had one of you. He looked imploringly at Harry. Maybe your friend could take it and I could stand next to you and then... could you sign it? Signed photos. You're giving out signed photos. Potter. Loud and scathing, Draco Malfoy's voice echoed around the courtyard. He'd stopped right behind Colin, flanked as he always was at Hogwarts by his large and thuggish cronies, Crabbe and Goyle. Everyone queue up, Malfoy roared to the crowd. Harry Potter is giving out signed photos. No, I'm not, said Harry angrily, his fists clenching. Shut up, Malfoy. You're just jealous, piped up Colin, whose entire body was about as thick as Crabbe's neck. Jealous, said Malfoy, who didn't need to shout any more. Half the courtyard was listening in. Of what? I don't want a foul scar right across my head, thanks. I don't think getting your head cut open makes you that special. Myself. Crabbe and Goyle were sniggering stupidly. "Eat slugs," Malfoy said Ron angrily. Crabbe stopped laughing and started rubbing his conker-like knuckles in a menacing way. "Be careful, Weasley," sneered Malfoy. "You don't want to start any trouble, or your mummy will have to come and take you away from school." He put on a shrill, piercing voice. "If you put another toe out of line." A knot of Slytherin fifth years nearby laughed loudly at this. "Weasley, would you like a signed photo, Potter?" Weasley would like a signed photo, Potter, smirked Malfoy. "It'll be worth more than his family's whole house." Ron whipped out his spellotaped wand, but Hermione shut voyages with vampires with a snap and whispered, "Look out!" "What's all this? What's all this?" Gilderoy Lockhart was striding towards them, his turquoise robe swirling behind him. "Who's giving out signed photos?" Harry started to speak, but he was cut short as Lockhart flung an arm around his shoulders and thundered jovially, "Shouldn't have asked." "We meet again, Harry." Pinned to Lockhart's side and burning with humiliation, Harry saw Malfoy slide, smirking, back into the crowd. "Come on then, Mr. Creevey," said Lockhart, beaming at Colin. "A double portrait can't say fairer than that, and we'll both sign it for you." Colin fumbled for his camera and took the picture as the bell rang behind them, signalling the start of afternoon classes. "Off you go, move along there," Lockhart called to the crowd, and he set off back to the castle with Harry, who was wishing he knew a good vanishing spell, still clasped to his side. "A word to the wise, Harry," said Lockhart paternally as they entered the building through a side door. "I covered up for you back there with young Creevey. If he was photographing me too, your schoolfellows won't think you're setting yourself up so much." Deaf to Harry's stammers, Lockhart swept him down a corridor lined with staring students and up a staircase. "Let me just say that handing out signed pictures at this stage of your career isn't sensible. It looks a tad big-headed, Harry, to be frank. There may well come a time when, like me, you'll need to keep a stack handy wherever you go." But he gave a little tilt. "I don't think you're quite there yet." They had reached Lockhart's classroom, and he let Harry go at last. Harry yanked his robe straight and headed for a seat at the very back of the class, where he busied himself with piling all 7 of Lockhart's books in front of him so that he could avoid looking at the real thing. The rest of the class came clattering in, and Ron and Hermione sat down on either side of Harry. "You could have fried an egg on your face, Ron. You'd better hope Creevey doesn't make Ginny. They'll be starting a Harry Potter fan club." "Shut up," snapped Harry. The last thing he needed was for Lockhart to hear the phrase Harry Potter fan club. When the whole class was seated, Lockhart cleared his throat loudly. "Ahem," and silence fell. He reached forward, picked up Neville Longbottom's copy of Travels with Trolls, and held it up to show his own winking portrait on the front. "Me," he said, pointed at it and winking as well. "Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defence League, and 5 times winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. But I don't talk about that. I didn't get rid of the abandoned banshee by smiling at her." He waited for them to laugh. A few people smiled weakly. "I see you've all bought a complete set of my books. Well done. I thought we'd start today with a little quiz, nothing to worry about, just to check how well you've read them, how much you've taken in." When he handed out the test papers, he returned to the front of the class and said, "You have 30 minutes. Start now." Harry looked down at the paper and read, "What is Gilderoy Lockhart's favourite colour?" Question 2. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's secret ambition? 3. What in your ambition is Gilderoy Lockhart's greatest achievement to date? On and on it went, over 3 sides of paper, right down to 54. When is Gilderoy Lockhart's birthday? And what would his ideal gift be? Half an hour later, Lockhart collected in the papers and rifled through them in front of the class. "Hardly any of you remember that my favourite colour is lilac. I say so in Year with a Yeti, and a few of you need to read Wanderings with Werewolves more carefully. I clearly state in Chapter 12 my ideal birthday gift would be harmony between all magic and non-magic people, though I wouldn't say no to a large bottle of Ogden's Old Fire Whisky." He gave them another roguish wink. Ron was now staring at Lockhart with an expression of disbelief on his face. Seamus Finnegan and Dean Thomas, who were sitting in front, were shaking with silent laughter. Hermione, on the other hand, was listening to Lockhart with rapt attention. Gave a start when he mentioned her name. But Miss Hermione Granger knew my secret ambition is to rid the world of evil and market my own range of hair care potions. Good girl. In fact, he flipped her paper over. Full marks. Where is Miss Hermione Granger? Hermione raised a trembling hand. Excellent, beamed Lockhart. Quite excellent. Take 10 points for Gryffindor, and so to business. He bent down behind his desk and lifted a large covered cage onto it. Now be warned, it is my job to arm you against the foulest creatures known to wizard kind. You may find yourselves facing your worst fears in this room. Know only that no harm can befall you whilst I am here. All I ask is that you remain calm. In spite of himself, Harry leaned around his pile of books for a better look at the cage. Lockhart placed a hand on the cover. Dean and Seamus had stopped laughing now. Neville was cowering in his front row seat. I must ask you not to scream, said Lockhart in a low voice. It might provoke them. As the whole class held its breath, Lockhart whipped off the cover. Yes, he said dramatically, freshly caught Cornish pixies. Seamus Finnegan couldn't control himself. He let out a snort of laughter, which even Lockhart could mistake for a scream of terror. Yes, he smiled at Seamus. Well, they're not very dangerous, are they? Seamus choked. Don't be so sure, said Lockhart, waggling a finger annoyingly at Seamus. Devilish, trickle little biters. They can be. The pixies were electric blue and about 8 inches high, with pointed faces and voices so shrill it was like listening to a lot of budgies arguing. The moment the cover had been removed, they had started jabbering and rocketing around, rattling the bars and pulling bizarre faces at the people nearest them. Right then, Lockhart said loudly, let's see what you make of them. And he opened the cage. It was pandemonium. The pixies shot in every direction like rockets. 2 of them seized Neville by the ears and lifted him into the air. Several shot straight through the window, showering the back row with broken glass. The rest proceeded to wreck the classroom more effectively than a rampaging rhino. They grabbed ink bottles and sprayed the class with them, shredded books and papers, tore pictures from the walls, upended the waste bin, grabbed bags and books and threw them out the smashed windows. Within minutes, half the class was sheltering under desks and Neville was swinging from the candelabra in the ceiling. Come on now, round them up, they're only pixies, Lockhart shouted. He rolled up his sleeves, brandished his wand and bellowed, Pesci pixi pastonomi. It had absolutely no effect. One of the pixies seized Lockhart's wand and threw it out the window too. Lockhart gulped and dived under his own desk, narrowly avoiding being squashed by Neville, who fell a second later as the candelabra gave way. The bell rang and there was a mad rush towards the exit. In the relative calm that followed, Lockhart straightened up, caught sight of Harry, Ron and Hermione, who were almost at the door, and said, well, I'll ask you 3 to just nip the rest of them back in their cage. He swept past them and shut the door quickly behind him. Can you believe him? Roared Ron, as one of the remaining pixies bit him painfully on the ear. He just wants to give us some hands-on experience, said Hermione, immobilising 2 pixies at once with a clever freezing charm and stuffing them back into their cage. Hands-on, said Harry, who was trying to grab a pixie dancing out of reach with its tongue out. Hermione, he didn't have a clue what he was doing. Rubbish, said Hermione. You've read his books. Look at all those amazing things he's done. He says he's done, said Ron. And that's the end of chapter 6.